All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual who has quite the fight coming up at Rizin 35. It transpires on April the 17th. It is a super atomweight championship affair with Ayaka Hamasaki defending her belt against Seika Izawa, and very happy to be welcoming Ayaka onto the show. How is Ayaka's day going so far?
まず選手、まず、試合を控えて、この時間いただいて本当にありがとうございます。今のところ、練習とか調子とか、どうですか？
そうですね。あと2週間を切ったところで、しっかり調整もできて、大きな怪我もなく、まあ、調子はいい方ですね。はい。
Yeah, so, we're about 2 weeks out of the fight. And I've come here without any major serious injuries. My condition is good, and I feel very good.
Yeah, I imagine that's huge because there was the well-documented issues with the knees like several years ago. So I imagine it's a big relief coming into competition with a clean bill of health.
浜崎選手は結構試合を万全な状態で、迎える、怪我が結構あったりとかっていう印象がありますので、大きな怪我もなく試合を迎えるっていうのは、素晴らしいことだと思います。
そうですね。怪我とはもうね、本当に長い付き合いなんで、どれだけちゃんと付き合っていけるかっていうのが勝負だと思ってて、今回はそれができてるので、よかったなって思ってます。
Yeah, injuries are definitely part of what we do, and it's part of the game. It's just a matter of how you cope with it, how you deal with it. And I think for this fight, leading into this fight, I've been able to deal with my injuries very well. So, yeah, I feel good about this one.
Yeah, well, that's awesome to hear. And I'd be remiss if I didn't quickly do a bit of a happy birthday shout out there. I saw it was the 40th a few days ago there, so a happy belated birthday there.
ちょっと脱線するんですけど、40歳の誕生日おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I assume a victory here in this rematch would be the ideal birthday present. I mean, a little bit away from the timeline, but I imagine that would be satisfying.
この試合ちょっと遅れてしまいますが、この試合に勝って、誕生日祝えたら最高のプレゼントになりますね。
そうですね。しっかり勝って、ちょっと遅い自分への誕生日プレゼントにしたいですね。
Yeah, that would be ideal. Win this fight and, make it a little belated birthday present for me with a victory.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of interested in the mentality here because there's been, multiple follow-up bouts in Hamasaki's career, like against Asakura and Ham and Fujino, to name a few. I'm kind of wondering, like, in a rematch, do you find there's more, I guess, thorough reads you get on your opponents? Like, do you feel more familiar heading into the rematches, or is it a bit more challenging because your opponent also has some knowledge of your skill set a bit as well?
浜崎さんのキャリアの中で、同じ相手とまた戦うっていうことは結構あってと思うんですけれども、まず朝倉選手だったり、ハム選手、藤野選手、そういう中で、今回また、再び、拳を交えるという、その感覚って自分にとってはアドバンテージなのか、一回手合わせしているのでやりやすいのか、もしくは逆に相手も自分のことを知っているので逆にやりづらいのか、どういう感覚なんですか、再戦っていうのは。
そうですね。リマッチって言っても、今までリマッチしてきた選手って結構何年も経ってから、朝倉環奈選手は違いますけど、藤野選手だったりとか浜崎選手っていうのは本当にもう何年も経ってからのリマッチなので、そこまでそういったことは意識したことはないんですけど、今回はちょっとスパンが短いので、お互いそこまでそうですね、スタイルが変わるわけではないので、なんとも言えないですけど、何でしたっけ
やりやすいのかやりづらいのかっていう、
やりづらさもないしやりやすさもないですけど、今回は前回試合ではほとんど出せなかったんで、自分のいいところなので、あっちも多分見たことのない私を見るんじゃないかなっていうふうには思います。
So, in terms of rematches, this fight is a little different than my previous ones, like Ham and Fujino, because Ham and Fujino was a rematch after years and years of still developing, and I didn't really look at it as like a rematch. It's like different fighters fighting different fighters. Like Kanna Asakura was a bit different, but this one is more of an immediate direct rematch, right? So there's not too much that both of us could change. So in terms of that aspect, it's a little different than other rematches that I've done. But I feel like that I wasn't able to show any of my strong points, my good points during the last fight. So I think this next fight, she'll probably be feeling that she'll be facing a different fighter because she'll be seeing the stuff that I wasn't able to show in my last fight.
And also one of the differences too is like normally heading into those some of those other sequel affairs, it would be whereby Hamasaki won the initial fight there, and I mean a rare instance here of looking to gain a measure of redemption from a career defeat. Does that change the mentality at all? Does that come into the picture at all, or not so much?
あとあれですね、過去の再戦とちょっと違う、シチュエーションが違うのは、今回、浜崎選手が一度負けてる相手に再戦をするっていう構図になると思うんですが、これってやっぱりメンタル的には何か違って影響を与えたりするものなんですか？
全然違うし、初めてのことなんであれだったんですけど、負けた相手にもう一回、ベルトを持った状態なのでちょっと複雑ではあるんですけど、リベンジできる舞台を用意してもらったっていうのは本当に嬉しいというか、なんか楽しみなんですよね、本当に試合が。やっぱりリベンジマッチっていうことでしっかりやり返そうっていう気持ちは本当すごいあります。
Yeah, the mentality is definitely different because I don't want to lose to the same opponent twice. And this is something that I've never experienced before, being able to fight somebody who I've lost to. So that itself is very exciting for me. That thought itself is very new, it's refreshing, and it's very motivating. And, it's an awkward situation because I still hold the belt and I will be defending my belt against somebody who I just lost to. So it's kind of awkward, but I'm very grateful to be given this opportunity to being able to experience the emotions going through fight camp and everything leading up to the fight. So I'm just very excited to see what I can do, and I am very motivated to get redemption on an opponent I previously lost to.
Yeah, because out of all the other previous defeats, that was never an option that was presented, which I imagine, prior would have been probably frustrating to a certain degree. So was there maybe some uncertainty the rematch wouldn't be set up at a certain point? Was there a relief that came when the announcement dropped? Like, what were the feelings with that just in between the first and second fight sort of period?
本当に今回初めてのリベンジの経験になるということにおっしゃったんですが、その今まで浜崎選手が、敗戦した相手とリマッチって組まれることなかったじゃないですか。はい、なので、今回、もしかしたらそのリベンジの機会を与えてもらえないのかなっていうふうな懸念とかありましたか？で、実際この再戦のオファーがあった時どういう気持ちでしたか？
そうですね、私がベルトを持っている以上は再戦は絶対あると思ってたので、そこはそんなにリマッチがないんじゃないかっていうのはあんま思わなかったし、再戦のオファーもらった時もすぐに OK しました。
So, like I said, the situation was very awkward because as long as I possessed the belt, I knew that the rematch was eventually going to happen. So I wasn't worried about this the revenge opportunity not happening. But when I got the offer, and it was no brainer, I accepted it immediately.
Yeah, it seems like there's a real strong desire to reintegrate into the picture quite quickly, and just facing an undefeated opponent here. Is there any, I guess, component where there's the excitement of kind of halting that streak, being the first blemish on the record, as it were, or is there nothing derived from that for Hamasaki?
今回また今勢いに乗る若手の無敗の選手と、対戦することになるんですが、その鼻をへし折ってやろうというか、その無敗の記録にこう土をつけてやろうっていう部分において、そこに対してのモチベーションってあったりしますか？
うん。初黒星をつけてやろうっていうよりは、もうリベンジしてやり返したいっていう気持ちの方が圧倒的に強いですね。
Yeah, for me, the feeling of halting a winning streak, for me, the motivation is I want to get revenge. And eventually, that would be, it'd be the same meaning of halting a winning streak and giving her the loss in the first time. So for me, my biggest motivation, my biggest emotion is to beat her and get my revenge and redeem myself.
Yeah, and obviously this would be, getting ahead a little bit and probably wouldn't happen right away necessarily, but if the ideal outcome manifested, that would be 1-1 in a series. Like, do you think like way down the line there would be some sort of like rubber match kind of component, like a tiebreaker eventually, should you get the outcome you're looking for?
ちょっと先の話をするあれでもないんですけれども、もしこれでリベンジ成功して、1対1になった場合、3度目っていうのはどっかで考えられると思いますか？
うん、そうですね。もしかしたらですけど、トーナメントやるかもっていうふうに聞いてるので、そこでももしかしたら当たるのかなとは思ってます。
Yeah, if that happens, if I successfully defend my bout against her, there is a rumor about a super atomweight tournament Grand Prix happening this year. So maybe the rubber match may happen a lot quicker than anticipated.
And I'm always curious to talk to fighters about this kind of thing, and just curious you mentioned the Grand Prix there, because it's almost like some fighters who've held both Grand Prix but also lineal titles in divisions, it's almost like they hold the Grand Prix title in like slightly higher esteem. Like, does Hamasaki share in a similar kind of thought there? Like, would the Grand Prix title, should that tournament come about, be like the ultimate capstone, like just like a touch above the lineal title?
グランプリのチャンピオンになって、そしてその階級のチャンピオンになる選手にインタビューとかをすると、その階級のチャンピオンベルトよりもグランプリのチャンピオンベルトの方が価値があるというふうに、言う選手がいるんですけれども、もし、そうなった場合、浜崎選手にとって、どっちのベルトの方が価値があるのか、そういう認識ってあったりしますか？
全くそんなこと思ったこともなかったし、考えたこともないです。どっちももちろん価値あると思うし、どういう意味でそうやって言ってるのかわかんないんですけど、1日に2試合やったりするからってことですかね。どうなんだろう。
So, I've actually never thought about it. That has never ever came to my mind on which is more valuable in terms of the belt. I've never thought about it, so it's very interesting. I actually want to ask you why they would say the Grand Prix belt is more. They feel it's more valuable. Is it because they have to go through a lot more fights, or like perhaps fighting twice in one day or whatnot? I just don't. I've never thought about it, so it's just it's a very new thought for me.
No, I mean, that's fair, and I do think that's like the mentality behind it. I think a lot of people who've held those Grand Prix titles hold the tournament in a level of esteem and everything like that, and the idea of, running through everyone in your bracket, I guess. But yeah, I mean, at the very least would be good for a visual there. I know years back when you were with Invicta, you were eyeballing 2 different titles for that sort of champ visual, so you could get that going for you, a couple belts over both shoulders.
本当に多分選手によってはその価値観というか、やっぱり決められた人数の中での一番が分かりやすいと。期間の中で戦った頂点に立つっていうこともそうですし、一人一人倒していくっていう分かりやすい構図なので、そういうふうに思う選手がいるんじゃないかなとは思います。だから浜崎選手、インビクタとかでは2階級狙ったりとか、そういうふうに両肩にベルトを持ったりとか、そういうふうなことを目指したこともあったと思うんですけれども、そういう感覚なんじゃないかなとは、
なるほど。 考えたことなかった。そうなんだ。
It's very interesting, Dylan. I've actually never thought about it. The difference between a lineal belt and a Grand Prix belt. It's very interesting.
Oh, well, glad to create some interesting conversation. Definitely something I try to do. And I'm kind of curious because it seems like in competition, Hamasaki is a very creative, expressive individual. Like, it seems like the fight IQ and just different unique techniques to, like, the, leg scissors choke against Miyu Yamamoto, just as a random example there. Like, does Hamasaki look at martial arts competition as, like, an especially artistic thing? Like, I guess, does she consider herself almost more of an artist as opposed to like an athletic competitor? Like, can she talk about her feelings on that?
浜崎選手の試合を見ていると、非常にクリエイティブで、その技というものの流れがすごくファイター IQ が高くていろいろと考えながら、戦っている。で、そこの状況に合わせた技を出しているっていう風に感覚を受けるんですね。例えばその流れの中での洗濯バサミ、ミユ選手とやったら洗濯バサミでしたりとか、さまざまな技術をその場に置いて適用させてるっていうふうに、私は思いますと。で、浜崎選手から見たその格闘技の格闘家、総合格闘家って、なんていうんですかね、その技を披露するアーティストなのか、それともアスリートなのか、そういうふうに分類できると思うんですが、浜崎選手は自分のことをどういうファイターだと思ってますか？もう完全なアスリートなのか、それともやっぱり技を生かすアーティストの芸術家なのかっていう、芸術家っていうのはそのアーティストなのかっていう、どういうふうに認識されていますか？
そうですね、どっちの要素も持ち合わせたいっていうのはあるんですけど、どちらかといえばアスリートなのかなっていうふうには思ってますね。そこまで私も技が多彩ではないと思ってるので、できる自分の持ってる技の中で見せれる試合ができればベストかなと思ってます。
Yeah, I think it's important to have both aspects in your martial arts, mixed martial arts game. But if you would ask me, I think I would lean more on the athlete side because I'm a fighter who doesn't have too many arsenals. Like I tried to, but I think I'm the type of fighter who utilizes my strengths at the right time. And creating that right time is what I do best. So I think I lean more towards on the athlete side.
Yeah, I get what you're saying in that regard, and I do appreciate the insights there. But I do think it's cool, like, how much Hamasaki really is inspired by, like, Megumi Fuji and everything like that, and Idol and a mentor and everything like that. And yeah, very much a legend in the sport, no doubt. But I'm kind of curious, just with like so many younger fighters looking at Hamasaki in such a high level of esteem, like, how does that make her feel, that lineage of looking up to someone at one point, and now you're in a spot where you're inspiring a lot of up and coming fighters?
浜崎選手は選手としてずっと藤井恵選手っていう藤井恵っていう人物がいて、そこに憧れてその人を目指してやってきたっていう経験を持ちながら、今現在浜崎選手自身が若い選手たちのそういう人物像になりつつあるんですが、そういったなんていうんですかね、昔自分が憧れた人に、要は自分も憧れる人物に若い子たちが目指す人物になりつつあるっていう、この歴史の流れというか、今の現状をどういうふうに見ますか？
そうですね、藤井さんが引退してもう9年経って、ずっと藤井さんの背中を追ってここまで来て、まだ追いついてはないと思ってるんですけど、私もそういった藤井さんのその9年前の藤井さんのような存在になれればいいと思うし、ならなきゃいけないなと思うので、しっかり藤井さんのようにはできないですけど、なんて言うんだろう、そういった背中を こう下の世代に見せていかなきゃいけないなとは思ってますね。
Yeah, so I've came all this way of simply chasing Fuji-san's back. I wanted to become her. I've been chasing her footsteps. I've been wanting to become her, and it's already been 9 years since she's retired, but I'm still not at her level. I'm still not there of who she once was. So I think, you know, it's my obligation to become somebody like her, and and I feel like I need to become somebody like her. I want to be somebody like her, and you know, I do feel like that every day, and I think I need to become a role model to the younger generation, like how Fuji-san was to me.
Well, that's a great way to break it down there. Kind of curious though, just because you've collected titles and Rizin, Invicta, Deep Jewels, for instance, just really a myriad of accomplishments there, and just the longevity is incredible. Like no signs at all of slowing down from what anyone can tell. Like what does Hamasaki credit her longevity to? Like why is she, I guess, still operating on the high level of or the high frequency level that she currently is? Like why is that not wavering at all from what I can tell?
浜崎選手のキャリアを振り返って、やっぱりこうディープジュエルズからインビクター、そしてライジン、本当に全部タイトルを取ってきて、長い間やっている中でも全くもってまだ衰えを見せていない。ずっと最前線でトップレベルでやっていながらも衰えを見せていないというふうに感じるんですが、それを長く続けて、長くトップ戦線で続けられる理由と、その秘訣ってのは何だと思ってますか？
そうですね、私はもう本当に好きなことをずっと続けてきてるだけで今ここにいると思ってるんで、そうですね、秘訣、でも私も藤井さんもそうだったんですけど、その強さだけを求めて格闘技やってるんで、まだまだこう全然こう強さっていう意味ではこう満足してないところがあって、ずっとこう向上心を持ってというか、もっと強くなりたいっていう気持ちを持つのが一番なのかなと思います。
So for me, I think I haven't really thought about it. I haven't really thought about it, but I'm here because I've continued to do what I love to do, and that's what I've always done. That's what I've only done. And the mentality is, I think I have the same mentality as Fuji-san, but Fuji-san was, me too, is like we want to pursue strength. Like we want to figure out, we want to know what true strength is, and strength comes in all different shapes and forms. So, and it never ends. And there's no goal in pursuit of strength. So I think we're constantly chasing on how to become a stronger person. And like I said, there's so many ways of becoming stronger. And I think the mentality of continuing to pursue your goal is what keeps me going.
Yeah, for sure. And I imagine there would have to be a great gym culture over at AACC, which seems to have been the primary training space for a meaningful period of time, for sure. So can you speak to the gym culture and everything like that? I imagine that's a space where on a daily basis there's that continual pursuit of finding that strength you were talking about.
浜崎選手はずっと AACC で、やられてると思うんですけれども、その強さの追求するっていうその哲学的な部分って、そのジムの教えなんですか？
いえ、そういうことはなくて、結構むしろ安倍さんとかはこう自分のペースでやんなって感じなんであれなんですけど、やっぱ藤井さんをずっと見てきてて、なんかこう藤井さんって本当にずっと強くて、それにずっと憧れてて、なのでだと思います、私は。もうみんながみんなそうではなくて。
So I think it's not. I think it's not about the gym culture of pursuing strength because the owner Abe he's more of you should do it at your own pace. You should grow and train at your own pace. But for me, I've been watching Fuji-san for so long, and that's what I wanted to be. And she's been my idol since, and that's just how her mentality is. That's how she operates. So I think the whole pursuit of strength is me being impacted and inspired by Fuji-san. Not everybody at AACC are like us.
Oh, so there's like varying mindsets and mentalities and stuff like that there. I mean, that's cool too in its own way for sure. But I'm kind of wondering like how the preparations at the gym for like this upcoming rematch differ from the initial fight, and also I guess an extension, like who the main sparring partners that Ayaka is working with ahead of this one.
そういうメンタリティーを持った浜崎選手なんですが、今回の試合に向けた、調整の仕方だったり、そのスパーリング相手っていうのは、どういった方々で練習して、どういうマインドで練習されていますか？
そうですね、スパーリング相手はまあ変わらず ACC だけでやってるのと、まあでも練習の中での意識はすごい変わって、まあ今までこう、なんとなくこう、対策とかも立てずに、試合前もやってきてたんですけど、今回しっかりこう悪かったとことかを前回の試合見て踏まえながら対策を取りながら、まあ、藤井さんや佐々木さんも広島から来てくれて、ここはこうだよねっていう感じで話しながら対策取れたんで、まあ、自信はすごくあります。
So, my sparring partners haven't changed. I haven't really brought in anybody except my teammates from AACC. So that hasn't changed. But preparing for this specific fight, I usually go in there without a game plan. But for this one, we specifically had some ideas on what to do, what to work with in certain situations, in certain positions. So that has definitely changed for this fight camp. I'm definitely getting ready for a specific opponent. Fuji-san and her husband, Sasaki-san, has come over to train, and we went over some drills, and we've been through some situation drills, and we've been training for this specific fight. So that's a big change for my fight camp.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a huge shift. That's very interesting and exciting to hear for sure. Appreciate those insights. But a lot of great martial arts talk being had, which I do appreciate, but also kind of curious about some of Ayaka's like hobbies or interests outside of martial arts. Like it seems like when she's not training, playing with her pets is a big stress relief and all that. Like what are some of the hobbies and just general interests outside of the martial arts bubble?
浜崎選手はもう当然その格闘技の知識とその情熱がすごいんですが、格闘技以外のところでどういったものに興味ありますか？ SNS 見ててもやっぱりペットと過ごす時間が多いというふうに思うんですが、浜崎選手のこの格闘技以外のところでどういうものに興味あったり、どういうところに時間を費やしていますか？
趣味がなくて、本当に動物が好きで、もう興味あるって言ったらもう本当動物ぐらいしかないですね。本当にすみません。
Yeah, I'm sorry for such a boring answer, but I really have no hobbies. And I have my love for animals. So anything else that draws interest for me outside of martial arts fighting is definitely animals.
Yeah, and what are the animals there? Like a couple cats, couple dogs? Like what's the roster? I've got a couple cats and a dog myself, so kind of curious.
自分自身も猫が2匹と犬飼ってるんですが、浜崎さんは何をどれくらい飼ってらっしゃるんですか？
猫を3匹と犬フレンチブルドッグを 2頭です。
はい。So I have 3 cats and 2 French bulldogs.
I was gonna say, do the dogs and cats get along fairly well, or a little bit of disagreement sometimes, or harmonious all around?
猫とフレンチブルドッグってこう仲良くやれてますか？それともなんかこう敵対したりとかどういう感覚ですか？いつも。
そうですね。仲良くはなくて、なんかいつもこう猫が犬にパンチしてます。
Yeah, they're not. They don't really get along. The cats are usually punching the dogs.
That- That's kind of funny. I mean, some my cats and dogs are or my cat and dog are kind of like that as well a little bit, so I can understand. But Ayaka's been very good with her time, and I want to be mindful of her schedule and everything. So, is there anything she might want to add as a parting thought as we're wrapping up here?
そう自分とこの猫と犬もそんな感じなんでちょっと笑っちゃいました。すいません。
やっぱりそうなんですね。
なので、本当に今日お時間いただいて、本当に長くとどめておきたくないので、なんか最後に浜崎選手自身からなんか発信したいことだったりとかって言っておきたいこととかってあったりしますか？
うん、そうですね。まあ、今度の試合のことに関してなんですけど、もう本当に応援してくれるみんなのおかげで頑張れてます。しっかりリベンジするので見ててください。
So yeah, I would like to send a message to the people who support me. Is that you know, I've been able to come all this way through everybody's support. That last loss made me recognize how many people supported me and how many people cheered for me. So I'm here because of you. So I really want everybody to watch me redeem myself and get my revenge. So please watch my fight.
And people can do just that on April the 17th, Rizin 35 taking place, and a very intriguing rematch for sure, with that super atomweight title hanging in the balance as Ayaka Hamasaki defends against Seika Izawa. And yeah, just appreciate the depth of great insight there and everything like that. And thanks to both of you for your time, and just hopefully you both enjoy the rest of your days there.
山崎選手、今日は本当にお時間いただいてありがとうございました。興味深い話を聞かせてもらいました。今日残り一日、素晴らしい日を過ごしてください。ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございます。
All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, happy to be talking to an individual who has a compelling fight going at Rizin 35, which transpires on April the 17th. We have the Super Atomweight Championship up for grabs in a rematch between Ayaka Hamasaki and Seika Izawa, and very happy to be welcoming Seika onto the show for the very first time. I'm just wondering how her day's going so far.
伊沢選手、今日はお時間いただいて、出演いただきありがとうございます。まずはですね、今日の調子はどうですか？
今日の調子は今日も元気です。
I feel great today as usual.
And I'm just wondering, because I'd seen an interview you did with Drake Riggs relatively shortly after the New Year's Eve victory, one of the biggest upsets in MMA history, and shortly after you said something to the effect of, oh, I don't know if I can, fully process the moment. Can you fully process the significance of that victory now, a little bit removed from it?
伊沢選手が前に、大晦日で勝利した後に受けたインタビューをちょっと見させていただいたんですが、その時に本当に女子格闘技史上最大のアップセットって言ってもおかしくないぐらいのことをやってのけて、今現状あんまり実感がないというか、あんまり整理できてないという風なインタビュー内容だったんですが、今現在振り返ってみて、勝利の凄さを実感できてますか？
周りの声はすごいあって、すごいとかいう声はあるんですけど、別に自分自身が急にそんなに強くなったとかそういうわけではないので、特に自分の中ではそんなに大きな変化はないです。
So, the people around me are talking about it, and they're all excited about it, and they are definitely, talking about how the significance of, what the accomplishment of what I've done. But for me, I don't really feel like I've gotten extremely better in such a short period of time. I don't feel like I've gotten improved that much as a fighter. So I try not to get that stuff in my head. So, for me, it's a good thing that I won. It's a good thing that people around me are talking about it. But for me, it hasn't changed too much.
I guess that makes sense, but I guess it's just impressive in the context of how early it is and the MMA career and everything like that. But is that like the, lifestyle of a martial artist kind of mentality? Is that sort of where Seika is coming from with that?
伊沢選手の謙虚な、 常に向上心あるその姿勢が非常にいいと思うんですけれども、これってやっぱりこう長年の格闘技とかその、レスリングだったり格闘技をやってきた中で武道家として格闘家として培ったメンタリティなのでしょうか？
そうですね。ちっちゃい時から兄弟、お兄ちゃんと弟、年子の兄弟がいて、ずっとその2人に負けながらやられながらで、練習環境とかも男子がいる環境でずっとやってきて、やられていることの方が多いので、ずっとそれがもう自分の中の自分はずっと弱いぞっていうような気持ちでいることにつながっているのかなって思います。
So I grew up doing martial arts with my older brother and younger brother. And I was in an atmosphere, in an environment where they would beat me up every day. I couldn't win in practice. Even when I go to, I was surrounded in an environment where all the boys would be around and I couldn't win. I was the weakest one all the time. So I think growing up like that definitely set my mindset of, you're always weak. You are weak. You're still not strong. It's hard to admit, it's hard to admit your strength when you've just grown up your entire life with defeat and being the weak one. So I think that just kind of is my mindset as of now.
Yeah, it's curious you mentioned that because I saw an interview with MMARising.com talking about your brothers participating within mixed martial arts. Do you think they could end up competing under the Rizin banner at some point? Is that something you'd like to see?
今その兄弟のことをおっしゃったんですが、前どっかのインタビューで、兄弟も弟さんの方も、格闘技をやられているということを、言ってたと思うんですけども、彼がライジンでいつか試合するっていう可能性はあったりするんですか？
はい、すごい弟はポテンシャルセンスで言うと自分よりもすごいセンスがあって、今までは、自分より後に総合格闘技始めたんですけど、そんなに総合格闘技に熱中っていうか夢中になって練習頑張るってこともなかったんですけど、やっぱり自分がライジンに出て大舞台で戦っている姿を見て刺激を受けて、すごい最近練習でも強くなっているので、ここからどんどん今やってるディープで成績を伸ばしていったらいつか一緒に絶対試合ができると思ってます。
So I think my younger brother is he's got a lot of potential. He's very gifted. In terms of potential, I think he's got more potential than I have. He transitioned into MMA after I did. So he hasn't really been doing it for too long. At first, he wasn't quite motivated on being serious about training. But after he saw me participate in Rizin and see me fight on television and whatnot, I think that inspired him to train harder. And he's been in the gym and been training very hard lately. So if he continues this, and if he continues to leave results in deep, I'm very confident that someday we'll be able to fight in Rizin together.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see, maybe, sharing a spot on the New Year's Eve card together or something like that.
大晦日の大会に兄弟で出れたら素敵ですね。
はい、出たいですね、一緒に。
Yeah, that would be very nice.
Yeah, no doubt. And just, it seems like K-Clan has been the established gym for a meaningful period of time. Are you still working out of that space for this one? And who are some of the main sparring partners?
最近すごく K クランの選手たちが活躍されてきてて、今すごい波に乗ってると思うんですけど、伊沢選手、今回の試合も K クランで、やられているという認識でよろしいですか？
はい、ずっと K クランで練習して、セコンドも横田さんとコロさんと、あと弟のフーガの3人でついてもらうことになってます。
ちなみにスパーリングパートナーとかはどういった方々といつも練習されてるんですか？
スパーリングパートナーは弟が結構多くて、あとはもう一人フライ級の林健太っていう選手がいて、その選手とあとコロさん とか軽量級の選手とやることが多いです。
So yeah, I'm definitely at K Clan. I've been putting on a full fight camp for this one at K Clan. My cornerman will be Yokota-san, my little brother Fuga, and Koro. My sparring partners are basically they're flyweight men, and basically I spar a lot with my little brother. There's another flyweight fighter called Kenta Hayashi, and then Koro, who also fought in Rizin. But those are my main sparring partners.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of an interesting situation leading into this rematch here in the sense of it's kind of like history repeating itself in the sense of when, she was fighting for Deep Jewels, there was the non title victory and then a title bid thereafter. Is that a strange space to be in, like beating a champion and then having to rematch them to like officially capture the championship?
伊沢選手はディープの時もそうなんですけれども、こうノンタイトルで、現役王者を倒して、また2回目で倒してようやく真の王者にならなきゃいけないっていうことを今回で2回目になると思うんですが、ご自身でこういう状況に置かれることをどのように思いますか？
そうですね。特にそんなに意識はしてなくて、ただ、同じ選手と2回やるぐらいのイメージですね。
Yeah, for me, I try not to get that into my head. I don't really think about it. I just try to think about it in a very simple way. It's just me fighting the same fighter, my same opponent twice.
And I'm also kind of curious because I was noticing the Deep Jewels Championship was at 115 pounds in the strawweight ranks there, and with this Rizin title being at 108 pounds in the super atomweight category, is there, I guess, a preference between weight categories? Like, did she feel a bit better, maybe more efficient at the super atomweight limit, or did she feel like she's, I guess, commensurately skilled in both weight divisions?
ディープジュエルスでは、ストロー級の、チャンピオンということで、今回ライジンに参戦してからは、スーパーアトム級49キロで戦っているんですが、伊沢選手としては、どっちの階級の方が、調子いいとか、それとも両方でも全然問題ないとか、なんかその階級の差によって何か、ご自身で気づかれることってあります？
はい、今のところ、どちらでもいけるかなっていうような気持ちはあるんですけど、やっぱり52キロ級ストロー級だとほとんど減量なしの状態で出てるので、やっぱそう考えるとこのスーパーアトム級とかがベストな体重なのかなっていうような意識はあります。
For me right now, I think I would have no problem fighting in both weight classes. But when I fight at strawweight, I barely have to cut. I have almost no weight cut. So when you think about it in a competitive view, in a bigger picture, I think the super atomweight division, the atomweight division, will be more suitable for me.
And I was also noticing there was a 3-0 MMA record last year in concert with a 3-0 pro grappling record. So I'm kind of wondering if like there's a similar desire for Izawa to take on MMA as well as pro grappling bouts, or if mixed martial arts will be the sole athletic pursuit this year.
昨年伊沢選手の活動を見ていると、MMA の試合で3勝0敗で、グラップリングの試合で3勝0敗だというふうに思うんですが、この先も伊沢選手グラップリングと総合格闘技一緒にやっていきたい感じですか？それともどっちかに絞って、どっちかというか総合格闘技の方に絞って進めていきたいのか？
試合のオファーがあればどっちでもいいかなって思っているので、特に自分がどっちにこだわりたいっていうのはありません。
I just want to compete, so if there's an offer, I'm going to take it. Right now, I don't really have a preference. I just want to compete.
Yeah, for sure. And to that point, with this next challenge here, I'm curious, like on a game planning level, how this is being approached. Like not divulging like too much detail, obviously, but the first fight seemed like it was, pretty dominant in the favor of Izawa and everything like that. So is there much of a tactical shift heading into the rematch? Is there going to be, a bit of nuance added to this game plan for the rematch? Like, what's the, I guess, tactical dynamic like?
今回のこの再戦に向けた、作戦というものって大幅に変えてきたりしますか？まあ当然差し支えないけど、もし教えていただけるならば。というのも、1回目はまあ結構圧倒的に終わったように見えたので、まあ、今回も大きな作戦変更をしているのかどうか、まあ、どういうアプローチで、この試合に臨むのか、ちょっと聞かせてください。
はい、前回の試合も作戦を立ててなくて、今回の試合も作戦を特に考えているわけではないんですけど、浜崎選手が多分前回よりもボクシング、打撃にこだわってやってくると思うので、そこでどれだけ自分が詰めて前に出て自分の攻撃をしていけるかっていうのがすごいポイントになるかなって思います。
So, in the last fight, I went in there without a plan. And for this one, I think I'm going to go in there without a plan as well. But what I know is that I know that Hamasaki is going to adjust her fight style, and she's going to approach this fight differently. I think she's going to try to keep more distance. She's going to try to strike more. And I think the key point of this fight is going to be how I can approach her striking and fight my fight. So I think that's going to be the key point for this fight.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious about the striking kind of component there because it seems like the base is largely informed by like judo, wrestling, sumo, things like that. For Seika, I'm kind of curious, like, is there like a level of great enthusiasm seeing the development in the striking just on a martial arts level and, seeing those skills grow just mostly coming from that grappling base?
伊沢選手のバックボーンってもう主にグラップリングだと思うんですけども、まあ、柔道、レスリング、相撲だったりそういうもの、のバックグラウンドがあって総合格闘技に転向して打撃っていうものを初めて習ってでご自身の中でこの打撃が上達していく感覚っていうのは新しい新鮮な感覚ですか？どういった感覚なんですか？
そうですね、やっぱりグラップリングは基礎があってそこから自分の土台を、そのグラップリングとか MMA に応用していくっていう形なんですけど、総合格闘技のその打撃は初めてやってるのですごい新鮮な感じが多くて、まず基礎、柔道の習いたての頃のような気持ちをまた改めて味わえているので、すごいなんか懐かしい初心に帰ったような気持ちも得られるので、すごく総合格闘技の中で打撃ができてよかったなって思います。
So, in MMA, obviously you need a base, and then you start adjusting. So right now for grappling, I have my grappling base, and what I'm doing is adjusting my base into MMA. But for striking, this is something very new to me. It's my first time learning striking. It's a very refreshing feeling because you have to start from scratch. You have to learn everything from the basics. You have to build your base, and it reminds me of when I first started judo. That fresh feeling when you learn something, and you're in the process of learning something new. You learn something every day. So that is very refreshing, and it's a very good thing for me, and I'm enjoying MMA, and I'm very glad that I got into MMA because I'm learning new things in the striking area.
Yeah, well, to the point of learning every day, it seems like grad school has been a big thing, balancing that with the training and all of that. Like, how have the graduate school pursuits been going? And it also seems like she's trying to be a teacher as well. So curious to get some insights into that.
今大学院生と並行して格闘技をやられていると思うんですが、その二足のわらじをどのように今バランスを取ってるんですか？
はい、単位を全部去年、一昨年に取ってしまっているので、あとは論文を出すだけなので、時間的には午前中に論文を進めて、午後 練習っていうような割り振りにしてます。
なるほどですね。So, right now, I've already got all my units to graduate. So all I have left is my thesis. So I have plenty of time to work on my thesis in the morning, and then I train in the afternoon. So that's how I balance out my my grad school right now, because I already have my units.
Oh, that's exciting. What would the timeline for completing that be? Does she have even a tentative timeline? I mean, she's saying there's like no real rush necessarily, but is there a tentative timeline for completing the thesis?
論文の提出期限っていつぐらいなんですか？そんなに焦りがないように感じるんですが。
そうですね。今年の年末12月頃ですね。
Yeah, the timeline for the thesis is by the end of the year, so it's probably December of this year.
Yeah, well, it seems like it's going to be a big year in many regards, so that's definitely exciting. But I was also noticing an article saying that there was the dreams of representing Japan in the Olympics, but put on the back burner to go study at university. Is there still like a future desire at some point to maybe vie for like a Olympics bid in like a judo kind of capacity, or is she looking at this upcoming title bid as something that would represent that kind of thing, like capturing a world renowned distinction?
伊沢選手、なんか以前のインタビューで、まだ日本代表としてオリンピックで戦ってみたいというふうに、おっしゃっていたと思うんですが、当然そのコロナでその機会がどんどん減っていってしまって、現在に至るわけなんですが、もし機会があれば、またオリンピックを目指して、競技生活に戻るっていうことっていうのは考えていますか？
いや、もう今は総合格闘技の楽しさにどっぷりハマってしまっているので、総合格闘技で世界一になりたいなっていう気持ちしかないです。
Yeah, so right now I'm just stuck with MMA. I've realized the joy of being an MMA fighter, and so right now I don't really think about going back to competitive judo nor representing Japan and going to the Olympics. I'm just absolutely hooked to this mixed martial arts, and my goal right now is to become the best in the world in mixed martial arts.
Well, as someone who is passionate about mixed martial arts, tremendously exciting to hear considering the run so far and just the potential for the future there. But Sayaka has been great with her time, and I want to be mindful of her schedule. So, is there anything she might want to add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up here?
今日本当にお時間いただいて出演いただいてすごく素晴らしい時間だったんですけれども、そろそろ終わりにしますので、伊沢選手自身で何か自分から西洋のファンに発信したいとか何か伝えたいものがあればご自由に発言してもらって構いません。
はい、そうですね。まだまだ始めたてのひよっこなんですけど、これからもっと一生懸命練習して世界で伊沢聖華っていう名前を轟かせたいと思うので、ぜひ注目してください。
So a message to the international fans. I'm just a beginner. I'm still very green. I've got a lot of work to do, but I promise you that I will work hard and build my skills up. And someday I will make sure that everybody will know my name, Seika Izawa, globally. So please stay tuned. I appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Well, definitely well on your way to doing that. And the next chapter in that story going down on April the 17th at Rizin 35 when Ayaka Hamasaki and Seika Izawa get out there for a rematch with the Super Atomweight Championship hanging in the balance. And yeah, just wanted to thank Seika so much for the time. Really appreciate it. And yeah, just hope she enjoys the rest of her day.
伊沢選手、今日本当にお忙しい中、試合前お時間いただいて本当にありがとうございました。素晴らしいインタビューでした。試合ぜひとも頑張ってください。楽しみにしています。今日はありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。